Hello there guys, it's me Unstable Voltage and welcome back to Europa Universalis IV. In the last video we covered the basics of starting a game and declaring your rivals and just doing some very basic diplomacy. Now in this video we're going to get into some of the slightly more interesting mechanics of the game, mainly that of your armies. So as you can see in this game as Castile, we actually start with 21 regiments. We have a stack of 20 over here, and we have a single regiment here. Now, you can actually find out useful information by mousing over the regiment. You can see here, I have men. It says 1000/0/0. So that is the total number of men within the regiments. But beneath, you can see 1 infantry, 0 cavalry, and 0 artillery. If we go over to this stack, you can see 15,500 and 15,000, 5,000. Now, the reason you have two different numbers is because you can actually lose men from a regiment without losing the regiment. So even if you have, say this regiment loses 999 of its men and is left with one little guy all on his own, it will still count as an entire regiment. So that's why you have two different numbers. Now, the important thing when actually building your army is this little number up here. Now, this is your national manpower. Now, you can see from the mouse over, it says my maximum is 26,660 men. Now, there are various things that will increase this limit. Mostly, it's due to the size of your nation. The more land you own, the more territory you own, the higher your manpower limit will be. There are also various technologies and random events that can increase and decrease this. Now you see that I currently only have 18,706 of my total maximum, and it says on the mouse over I currently gain 223 each month. So every month this number will go up by 223. To fully reinforce my armies I need 0 men, and 0 will reach the armies this month. Now this is because all of my armies are at full manpower. None of them have lost any men. So your manpower is basically all of the men within your nation that are of the age where they can go to war. And this is your reserve pool where you can pull additional people from. Now, there are two reasons you need to draw from the manpower pool. Firstly, if you are creating new units. And secondly, to reinforce units that take damage. Now, your units can take damage in war. Obviously, if you're fighting battles, you're going to lose men. You can also lose men from a mechanic that is called attrition. Now, normally, while your men are in your own territory, they're fine. They won't suffer attrition. If you're in enemy territory, you will actually take attrition. So you'll start to lose men as time goes on. The longer you're in enemy territory, the worse it will get. You can still reinforce. It's automatic. So you will, providing you have some manpower left, those attrition units will get reinforced, but it's still a drain on the manpower. You will also get attrition if you have your units at sea. Your boats can get attrition as well. Mostly they're okay if they're near the coast, but if they go too far away from your own territory, they'll start to get attrition. If you have any of your soldiers on transport ships, those soldiers on the transports will get attrition as time goes on. You can also get attrition from bad weather. If you're in somewhere that has a lot of snow and is very mountainous, you will find that you will take attrition. Also, the seasons play a part in this game as well. So in the winter, you will take more attrition than you would do in the summer months. Now, if you left-click on any one single province, you get the province pop up here, and you'll see this little military box down in the left-hand corner. And it says how much manpower you get from that province, but it also has this useful thing here. This is the supply limit. And as you can see, for example, in Badajoz, this one is 18, which means it can support 18 regiments. So, if I look at Andalusia here... Oh, I right-clicked, I should have left-clicked. Andalusia has a supply limit of 30, and we have 20 troops here, so we're not taking any attrition. If I was to take this stack of 20 and put them in this province, which we know only has a supply limit of 18, we can actually see on the mouse pop-up as well. Let me just move this guy back. He hasn't actually moved yet because the game is still paused. If you mouse over a province, it doesn't actually tell you. All it tells you is the name of it, who owns it, and the fort level. If you select a soldier, or a regiment, you can actually see the supply limit is 18. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to right click. Now you'll see the arrow which indicates that I'm on my way. Now I don't arrive instantly. You can actually see that it says at the bottom I will arrive there on the 14th of December. So it does take a certain amount of time. And until that date occurs, so if I just unpause the game, the time is ticking on. It's now the 7th. It's now the 8th. I could still cancel that move and bring them back. But I'm not going to do that. I'm going to prove a point and let them get to that province. I could speed it up a bit, but we're doing this for ease of use. So as you can see, we've now arrived at this province and instantly the number goes down to 19. Now if you look at the regiments, we still have 15 regiments of infantry. We still have 5 regiments of cavalry. So we still have 20 regiments, but we're now down to less than 20,000 men. We've already lost about 165 men from our infantry, and we've lost 55 men from our cavalry. Now you can tell that the unit is getting attrition by this little tiny, I know it's hard to see especially on YouTube, but there's a little tiny skull that appears down on the bottom right hand corner of the unit flag. So that is basically letting you know that that unit is getting attrition. So we're going to move these guys back into Andalusia. Now, we have a mission, or at least we did have a mission, which was to basically have a larger army than France. Now, France has an army of 30, so we need to get bigger than that. Now, as we actually looked at our production interface before, there's 2 ways you can find this information. You can click on your shield and go into the military tab. And it's a little bit more messy to find it here, but you will actually see on this little box here on the left-hand side, you have an army force limit. We are at 21 of 28. And you have a naval force limit. We are at 18 of 25. So I did mention this at the end of the last video. The higher number is the maximum you're allowed to have, and the number on the left is how many you currently have. You can find that same information by clicking on the production interface button, and if you look at your land units, the number is down here at the bottom. Same with the naval units, the number is down here. Now you can go over this maximum limit, but it will get more expensive. You do have to pay for your units to build new armies or to train new soldiers. And if we actually go back into our economy screen, you will see that our army maintenance is 7.34 ducats per month. Now, the more soldiers you have, the more it's going to cost you per month. If you go over your force limit, that cost increases drastically. But it would be worth doing it because we only have to go over slightly and we would gain 5 army tradition. And army tradition is fantastic. So we're going to take that mission and we're now going to look at building some more troops or training some more troops. When we unpause this guy, we'll get back down to Andalusia and it will start to reinforce. So what we're going to do, there are 2 ways that you can produce units. You can either left click on a province and then you can select from these buttons here. You have recruit regiment, build ship or hire mercenaries. Obviously build ship doesn't apply if you are in a landlocked province. That's only going to work if you are on the coast. So you can click here, recruit regiment, and you get the choice of infantry or cavalry. We haven't actually discovered the technology yet to get any artillery, so there's nothing there. So you also see as well that you have these little pips that show. They're a little bit difficult to see on here, I grant you. But you've got basically 3 different statistics that units can have. You've got fire, you've got shock, and you've got morale. So, fire. The fire value of the unit is measured the amount of casualties that the unit will inflict in the fire phase of combat. And then you've got the shock phase. So, whenever you have a battle, there's a fire phase and a shock phase, then a fire phase and a shock phase. Now, our infantry do very little damage on either. Our knights are slightly better in the shock phase, but not in the fire phase. And you'll also see there's actually 2 different coloured little squares. There's the yellow square, which is your offensive ability, and then there's the green one, which is your defensive ability. So whether you're attacking or defending actually makes a little bit of a difference. But that's something we'll cover more later on. As you can see, the Latin medieval infantry costs us 10 ducats to hire, and maintenance is 0.21 ducats per month. So if we click that, it will add 1 to the queue. You can see there's a queue here at the bottom. And you can also see this little bar that will start to fill up as the infantry is about to be completed. And if we mouse over, it tells us it will be fielded on the 8th of February, 1445. So it's going to be a couple of months. Slightly quicker way of doing it is to click on the production interface and then select your units from here, and then you can just left click on all of the provinces where you want to build an additional unit. You can also click the plus and minus buttons on these provinces. Any of the provinces that have got the stripy lines on them means you already have a unit queued up there to be produced. You can build multiple units in one province, but it will only build one at a time. So if you're trying to build your army quickly, it's easier and faster to actually build them one in every province than, say you want 5 units, it's easier to build 1 unit in 5 provinces than it is to try and build 5 units all in the same province. So as I add more units to the production queue, you can see it's telling me how many we've got in production here. Now that would take me up to 28, which would be our max. We need to be 30. We're going to get a couple of knights. They are slightly more expensive, but we'll get those at these 2 provinces here. Now, one other thing that you do have, which is both in the production tab here, and also if... Oh, didn't want to do that. Let's get out of that. If you left click on a province, you can also... Let's hit the back button. You've got this hire mercenaries button, so it does the same thing. So what you actually have is you can hire mercenaries. Now, the advantages of mercenaries are they don't draw from your manpower. As you can see, my manpower has gone down significantly because we've started to produce these new units. Mercenaries don't draw from your manpower. However, they do cost you a lot more to hire, but they also train faster. So if you're in a pinch and you need to very, very quickly reinforce your numbers, mercenaries might be a way to do it, but they are very expensive. You'll also find often that the mercenaries can be a little bit stronger than some of the units that you have, but they are in limited numbers. So as you can see, we only have 8 regiments of medieval infantry mercenaries available. We only have 3 regiments of Latin knight mercenaries available. We're not going to bother with mercenaries too much at the moment, so what we're actually going to do is unpause the game. Now just quickly pause it again for a second. You can actually see here on the outliner, this army that we moved earlier on that took attrition, it actually shows us on the outliner the little skill, telling us that it's taking attrition. Its number is in red, which shows us that it is not fully reinforced. And it has the little green number which tells us that it is currently moving, and if we mouse over that, it tells us that it's moving towards Andalusia. So there's a lot of very, very useful information on the outliner. You'll also see the outliner has now appeared all of the regiments that we have in production. It's telling us how many days they've got until they're completed and whereabouts they are going to pop up. So we'll unpause the game and let that continue. In the meantime, we're going to have a quick look at Navarra and have a look at the diplomacy here. Because what we wanted to see if we could do with them is have... I think we have a royal marriage at the end of the last video. I think they actually... Yeah, we do. So we actually have a royal marriage with Navarra at the moment. Now, you can actually break your royal ties once you have a royal marriage. However, if you do that, it causes a lot of upset with the nations. There is one way that you can do it, and that is if you control the Curia, which is basically to do with the papacy, basically. This is something that I'll explain more later on in more detail, but essentially you can vote for certain cardinals, and if you have enough cardinals controlling the papacy, then you are basically in charge of the Curia. And when you're in charge of the Curia, the current one is England, you can then actually break royal ties without any problem. Now, you can only be part of the Curia if you are a Catholic nation, which Castile is. So some of these things do and don't apply. Like here, for example, we also have the Holy Roman Empire, which is something I will talk about later, but it doesn't really affect Castile because Castile don't have any provinces in the Holy Roman Empire. So what we want to do is go into Navarra, and what we'd like to do with them is claim their throne, because we can see on this disputed succession that Navarra, and you can now see that their name is in green, because that means we already have a royal marriage with them. Navarra doesn't have an heir. or they have an heir with a very weak claim. But we can see from looking at this that they don't actually have an heir at all. And their current ruler is 46. So it's quite possible that that ruler could pop his clogs. Now, you will actually see here that they have a royal marriage with myself, and they also have a royal marriage with Aragon. They're two different people that could succeed to the throne. But on monarch death, there'll be a succession war between Castile and France, because France are obviously trying to claim their throne as well. Now, France are one of the most difficult nations to deal with. They're not too bad at the moment because they're in the middle of the 100 Years' War with England, so their territory is actually quite divided. But France do get quite out of control in this game. Now, before I do that, and while we're actually talking about armies and units, let's have a little look at this unit here, which is one of England's units. Now, the first thing to notice is you'll see it's got this little padlock on the bottom right-hand corner of its flag, and this little bar, which on my units, let me find one, on my units is fully green, on the England unit is completely red. Now, that is the unit or the army's morale, and this is how battles are decided. When you actually have two units in combat, they basically fight and their morale goes down. When one unit's morale reaches 0, they break and retreat from combat. Now, because when they retreat, they're basically running, they're not in ranks, they move faster than a normal army, so it's very, very difficult to chase them down. But what they will do is they will run away to save territory, and they will basically just stand there until they reinforce. They will get more morale each month. Now, that is dependent on your army maintenance. I did show you that in the economy tab, you can actually increase or decrease your army maintenance. So it's a good way to save money. If you're not at war, you can bring your army maintenance right down. But the problem with that is it will bring down the morale of your troops because you're not giving them very good food, you're giving them crap clothing, you're not keeping them warm, and they will lose morale. If you have your army maintenance maxed, that morale will increase much more quickly, and it increases at the beginning of every month. So let's go into Navarra, and we are going to go to diplomacy, and we want to claim throne. Claiming their throne will result in the personal union if their monarch dies without a legal heir. However, if there is another claimant, we may be involved in a succession war. This action will lower our relations with all countries with which we have a royal marriage. Well, we do want to try and get Navarra. There are other ways of doing it, but we are going to try and do that. We lose some prestige for the privilege of, but we're going to try that anyway. So let's unpause the game and allow things to continue. Apparently we have broken our alliance with them. Not sure why we did that. It's probably because we now have a negative opinion of them, because we claimed their throne. So we can't do anything about that just yet, but it will be. We do need Navarra because it will be part of the Spanish territory eventually. So as you can see, the month has just ended. The game by default saves on the 1st of January. We get some more cash coming back in. That unit of England seems to have moved on. I don't think we have vision there now because we're no longer allies with Navarra, so we can't actually see that at the moment. So what I'm going to do is just speed the game speed up slightly just so things start to happen. And hopefully we will get some of these army regiments completed. Most of them are down to sort of 10, 11 days. There's another month done. And we should start to get these regiments. So as you can see, they're starting to pop up. Now, when you first create a regiment... we lost our claim on the throne of Navarra. That is unfortunate. When you first start to get these regiments, you will actually see that their morale bar isn't full. So it does take time for them to actually get all the way up to full morale. Now, you can produce your units in any territory that you own, providing that territory doesn't have an enemy unit on top of it, and providing that territory isn't under siege by an enemy unit. So a good way to stop your enemy from producing reinforcements when you're fighting them is to basically siege all of their territory or have units in all of their territory. But again, that is something that we will talk about when we get to it. Just have a quick look at Navarra now, because we've actually hurt our hurt our relations quite badly. One thing that we can do in relation actions is we can improve relations. So what we're going to do is we have a free diplomat. We're going to send this diplomat, and you can see here they have a negative 51 opinion of us. We're sending one of our diplomats, and he's going to basically work overtime to try and patch those things up. Now what I want to do is to take all of these new units and move them into Toledo. So if I select this guy and move him into Toledo, as you can see, Toledo has a supply limit of 23, so we are going to be okay there. And it will take until the 2nd of March for him to get there. Now let's just take our hands off the keyboard and let that happen. I'm just going to speed it up slightly actually. There we go, he's actually arrived, and let me just pause. We've lost the claim on the throne, yet we knew that, so that's not a problem. So, we actually arrived here in Toledo, but we didn't actually get any sort of pop-up or message. And one thing I like to have on in EU5 is EU4, sorry, which is very, very useful, is hit escape, go into your menu options, and you've got this thing here called message settings. And there is a massive list of various different events and things that can happen in the game. And what I want to do is I'm going to search for arrive. And what I am looking for is when one of our units arrives at its destination. Now, as you can currently see, this message type is currently displayed in the log. Now, if you want to see where the log is, that is this little... Oh, I can't show you the log at the moment because it's paused. But that is currently displayed in the log. The other options is this message type is currently not displayed on the map. So we can make it be displayed on the map. And then we have these three options here. This message... which one is it? This message type is not currently displayed as a pop-up and will not pause the game. This message type is currently not displayed as a pop-up. This message type is currently not displayed as a message icon. So what I usually select is select it as a pop-up. So you can select it to automatically pause. And if it automatically pauses, every time a new unit arrives somewhere, it will pause the game. I don't want it to pause, I just want a pop-up. That will be fine with me. So let us do that. As I was saying, if you want to see where the log is, it's this little plus button at the bottom left-hand corner of the mini-map. If you press that, this brings up the log here. And you will see somewhere... Ejérito de Madrid arrived in Toledo on the 2nd of March, 1445. But I don't usually play with this on because it's quite messy and it gives you a lot of redundant information. So let's carry on. Let's speed things up. We can already see that we are starting to recover some of our reputation with Navarra. So our... And we've now gained 5 army tradition. The reason we've gained 5 army tradition is because we completed that mission against France. Now what I want to do here is I don't want to be over my force limit because I'm currently at 30 of 28. That's going to be very expensive. If we go and have a look at my army maintenance now, it's up to 9.93. Don't want to be spending that much money. So I'm going to select 2 of these regiments here. And I'm going to click the little skull, the disband button for both of them. And they are now gone. That puts me back down at my force limit, which is fine. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get all these guys and move them in. You can actually hold down shift and you can select multiple units if you wish. So I don't want this unit here. So what I am going to do is select you, 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 and you, and move you all into Toledo. And as you can see, we now get pop-ups to tell us that these units are arriving. You can also go into the message settings if you actually click this little button down in the right-hand corner of any pop-up, and that allows you to choose whether it's displayed in the log, whether it's a pop-up, whether it pauses, and all of those various things. So let's just unpause and let all of these units arrive together, and we'll make a single army. So as you can see, we have a massive number of these little shields appearing under the army stack, and the yellow ones represent all the ones we have selected, the green ones represent the ones we don't. If we now select that entire stack, you can see we have 8 regiments here, but all of these regiments are individual armies. I can select them all individually. So what I want to do is make them all into a single stack. Now the way to do that is to select them all, and you have this button here which is merge selected units. Now, the shortcut key for doing this is G, probably for group. It's a little bit strange that they don't use M for merge, but merge the selected units, and now all 8 of these regiments become a single army. And as you can see, we have 6 infantry and we have 2 cavalry. Now, there are various different things you can do with an army once you've got it all together. You've got this handy button here, which is split in half. Shortcut key is S. If you do that, it will try and divide the army equally. So as you can see, we now have 2 different armies, 4 regiments in each, 3 infantry and 1 cavalry, because luckily we did have an even number. Sometimes it's not even and it does struggle, but we can regroup them like we just have there. The other option you can do is you can actually create a new unit with this button here, and that allows you to actually manually select how many units go across. So maybe I just want to take 2 infantry and 1 cavalry and make that into a new unit. And there you go. I've got 1 unit of 5, which is 4 infantry and a cavalry, and I've got another unit of 3, which is 2 infantry and a cavalry. So that's how you basically split and put your armies together. Now, one thing that makes armies very, very useful is having a leader. If we click this army, you can see this army currently doesn't have a leader. Now, you can assign a leader to your armies only in your own territory. So you must always remember to do this before you send them off to enemy territory to go to war. You can tell when an army has a leader because you'll actually see, if we look at this army of arrogance here, it's difficult to see again because of the size, but there are these 2 little golden stars above their flag, and that means that they actually have a leader with them. And indeed, if we mouse over, you can actually see their leader's stats. Their leader has 4 fire, 3 shock, 4 maneuver, and 1 siege. So let's go to our army, and we want to click our leader. Now, we already have 1 leader. There are 4 different types of leaders you can have. You can have a general or a conquistador. A conquistador is exactly the same as a general, but they can explore terra incognita. Terra incognita is all this stuff. It's all the white stuff on the map that hasn't yet been revealed. The only way to get to that is with a conquistador. But other than that, a conquistador is the same as a general. If we actually had our navy selected, we'd also have the option for an admiral, which works the same as a general, but for your boats, and also an explorer. And an explorer, again, is the same as a conquistador, except for the boats. So what we want to do is we're going to go to our army, we're going to click where it says no leader, and we're going to select this guy. He's not brilliant. He has 2 fire, 2 shock, and 3 maneuver. Now, I've spoken about fire and shock being the combat phases. Maneuver affects a couple of different things. First of all, it affects how quickly your army can move. If your army has a leader with high maneuver, that army will be able to move more quickly than it would have been without. And also, maneuver is very important when you are moving into a territory to start a fight. If you move into a territory that has a lot of mountains, for example, you don't want to be... you'd like to be the defender in that, because being in the mountains helps. Having a army leader with high maneuver gives you a much higher chance of getting the better ground when you are in a particular province. So maneuver is very, very useful for making sure that you don't get the terrain penalty, because a lot of these provinces will have terrain penalty. You also get terrain penalty from things like crossing rivers, but that is something that is generally unavoidable if you're attacking. But we're going to select this guy. It's the only guy that we've got. We now have a leader here. Now, you can actually click on there and you can go no leader and remove the leader back from the group if you want to then assign it to another army, because funnily enough, leaders do teleport around. So I can instantly select that army and add my leader to it. I can take the leader off that army, go to this army and add my leader to that. They literally just teleport around. What you can also do is you can click this button. This button will recruit a general, and it will cost us 50 of our military power. Now, the thing is, it is random. You never know how good that general is going to be until you get it. It might turn out that you get one that is completely rubbish. Now, it does say that this leader will cost us 1 military power per month, each month in maintenance. We have 1 leader and we can have one leader without upkeep. So we're only allowed to have one leader without upkeep. You can get various different technologies and events that will improve that as time goes on. One thing you can also do as well is you can actually make a general out of your ruler or out of your heir. Now, if you make your ruler or your heir into a general, they don't actually cost you any maintenance to keep them up and running. So it does give you a good way of getting another leader. However, if one of your monarchs or what your ruler dies in combat, you actually lose 2 stability, which is really, really bad. So I wouldn't ever advise doing that unless it was really necessary. If you ever want to look at how many leaders you've got in total, or to get rid of any, if you go into click on the shield icon and click the military tab, and you'll actually see a list of all your leaders down here. You can hire new leaders from the bottom, and you can dismiss any leader who is not currently assigned to an army. So if you want to kick somebody, you have to remove them from the army first. So now we've actually set up our armies. Couple of things that we've got now. We've got another mission that we can select. Improve our prestige. We'd certainly like to do that. We'd gain 1 stability if we did. Solidify our papal relations and finish the Reconquista. I think we're going to go for the improve our prestige. It shouldn't be too hard to do. Now, it says here we can invest in a cardinal. If we actually have a look at the papacy, we can see that we have 5.7% papal influence. And if we actually have a look, these are the active cardinals, and these are the future cardinals. Now, we can currently see that England is the current controller. Now, normally the current controller is the person who has the most active cardinals. Now, everybody only has 1, and somebody has to be the leader, so in this case it is England. Now, these are all the cardinals that we can vote for. And what it actually tells us here is their age and also how many votes they have and who by. Now, what you'd usually want to do is try and vote for the youngest ones. Now, we only have 5 points to spend. So we're going to try and go for this guy and vote against the Papal State. So we're going to click here, and that will spend our 5 points. Now, it hasn't flipped over yet because we have to be able to beat their points. We're currently at equal standing, as you can see there. So they've got 5 votes from Austria, 5 votes from the Papal State, and 1 vote from Hungary. If we can beat that, then we will be able to get them on our side. So what you can do as well is you can actually click this little radial button here, which makes it automatic. So we will go ahead and do that. Let us unpause the game. It will be nice to show you some combat. What we would like to do is attack Granada, but we can't actually attack Granada at the moment because we have a truce with them. However, we do want to get Navarra. Now, I'm not going to attack Navarra, and the reason for that, if I left-click on Navarra, and actually, no, I should right-click, it'll make it easier. If I right-click on Navarra, we can actually see that Navarra are allied with Aragon. So if I actually start a war with Navarra, the chances are they will bring Aragon into it as well, and I don't want to be fighting Aragon. Now, this is one of the things that's very important in this game if you're going to start a war. Always actually check and see who your target is allied with, because the thing is, if you start a war with them, there's a good chance that they will bring their allies into the battle, and their allies may have allies, and they may join the battle, and their allies' allies may also have allies. And you'll often find you'll pick on a puny little nation, and before you know it, you're fighting half of Europe. So you do have to be very, very careful. If I actually have a look at Aragon, I can see that Aragon are allied with Burgundy and Portugal. Now, admittedly, Portugal probably wouldn't get involved because I'm also allied with Portugal. There is a chance they could, because I would be the aggressor, and they may join the war on Aragon's side defensively. They certainly wouldn't join my side. They wouldn't attack Aragon or Navarra because they are their allies. But the point is, if I pick on Navarra, I could well end up facing Aragon, Burgundy, and probably Portugal. So you do have to be very, very careful. Also, they have a royal union with Naples as well. Aragon do. So we'd also be fighting against Naples. So I'm not going to be picking on Navarra anytime soon. We will have to try and take those guys diplomatically. Just having a quick look around to see if there is any sort of nations that we can pick on. We could go over here and start to attack the Moroccans. That sounds like fun. So let us think about doing that. Now, One thing I probably should talk about before we actually start invading anybody is cores and claims. If you left click on a province, you'll see you have this little box here that says cores and claims. Now, any shield that has a gold outline is a core, and any shield that has a green outline, if I can find one, which I probably can't now, let's see if I can see one. Who has a claim anywhere? No, can't see one, but any province that has a shield with a green outline is a claim. Now, what a core is, a core basically means that a nation considers it to be part of their core provinces. It is our land. So all of our current land is our core. It belongs to us. Now, more than one nation can have a core on a piece of land. If we look down here at Granada, you can see that Granada, who is an independent nation, consider it to be part of their land, but Castile also consider it to be part of ours. Now, on the 11th of November 1594, the province will have slipped far enough from our grasp, and we will lose the core on the province. Because a nation will lose a core province 150 years after the most recent of the following: after having received it, after the most recent time the nation was at war with the current owner, and the most recent owner change of the province. So, basically, if someone takes something from you, you've got like 150 years to get it back. We still consider this to be one of our cores. And this is the reason why, if we choose to go to war with Granada, which we're not going to do at the moment because, as I said, we have a truce with them, but we have the Reconquest Casus Belli on Granada. The reason we have that Reconquest Casus Belli is because they currently own the territory which we consider to be ours. In fact, the whole of Granada we consider to be ours. Now, if we actually look down here, we've got this little piece of land which Morocco is claiming is theirs, and so are the Portuguese. It'd be quite nice to get Tangiers, because Tangiers gives us a nice little bit of foothold on this side of the water, on this side of Sevilla. But we don't actually have a core here. We've got no right to take it. We don't have a Casus Belli against Morocco. So if I hit the declare war button, as you can see, I don't have a Casus Belli that I can choose from. And they're also allied with Tunisia, which is something that we have to be careful of. As you can see, stability effects, no Casus Belli is -2. We would lose 2 stability and put us on -2 because we have no valid reason to attack them. So what we're actually going to do is we are going to go into our, let's minimize these down so you don't have as much stuff to look at, covert actions, and we are going to fabricate a claim on a neighbouring province. And we want to make the claim on Tangiers. So we're going to click Tangiers. Now that is going to require one of our diplomats. And as you can see, this will fabricate a claim on the province of Tangiers. If we are discovered, Morocco will be upset. If discovered, we will gain 7.5 aggressive expansion. We have a 2.81% risk of discovery each month, and it's going to take 365 days, an entire year, for that claim to be made. Now, what fabricating a claim basically is, it means you are sending a diplomat to essentially work undercover, because it is a covert action. So you are sending a diplomat to work undercover. And what that diplomat is going to do, he is going to try and plant evidence that make it look like our nation has some sort of historic claim on this piece of land. Now, the thing is, even if you get discovered, you do get aggressive expansion if you get discovered, but even if you get discovered, you will continue to fabricate that claim. Once the claim is fabricated, I will have a claim on the land, and then I will have a valid Casus Belli to actually attack them and go to war with them. So we're going to keep working on that. Let us speed things up a little bit more. Let's go up to game speed 3, because we haven't got an awful lot going on. Always play this game with one hand over the space bar, because if something happens, you can just quickly hit space and pause it to deal with whatever is going on. Our diplomat's actually working quite well in Navarra, with increasing our sort of reputation with them, which is quite nice. And we can see information down here. Granada has entered a military alliance with Morocco, which is a little bit of a pain. Now, this could actually be quite useful, because one thing that we can't do here is we can't attack Granada. And the reason we can't attack Granada is because we have a truce with them. However, if we actually attack Morocco and Granada decide they're going to get involved, the truce doesn't matter, because we're not the ones breaking the truce, they are. So this little icon here is a request for military access from Burgundy. Now, the first question to ask is, why does Burgundy want military access? So I'm going to click on their little shield icon on here, and I can see they are currently at war with England. So, yeah, fine, let's let them in. I'm going to open my borders. They probably won't actually bother coming through. I don't know why they need to come through my lands, but I'm going to let Burgundy through anyway, because they're going to go and fight with England. And again, we will let time tick on. So this is one of the things with this game. Sometimes you can actually sit around for quite a while waiting for stuff to happen. You can see now that my armies are all at full morale. They're all fully reinforced. Even this unit that took some casualties from the attrition when we moved it into this province has now fully healed. And I'm getting 224 manpower each month, which is going to start to increase. We're also actually making a fair bit of progress on our sort of state powers here. Now, if you're going to go to war with somebody, particularly if you are going to try and take land, you definitely want to make sure that you have some administrative power and some diplomatic power in reserve. You use diplomatic power for creating the peace deal at the end of the war, and you will use administrative power for taking control of any land you take, because if you take a piece of land that doesn't belong to you, it will give you overextension. Now, the overextension mechanic is designed to stop you just going out in a single war and taking over the whole of Europe. You can only take so much land at the same time. And having overextension really hurts your civilization, because overextension reduces your trade, it causes rebellion risks. It's a bad thing to have. So you've got to be careful. We can get some overextension. The bigger the base tax of a province, the more overextension you will get. So if we actually have a look at if we actually have a look at Fez here, you can see that Fez's base tax is 7 ducats, so that would give us a lot of overextension. Tangiers has a base tax of 8, which is going to give us a massive amount of overextension. It's also going to be very expensive to core, but it is quite a rich area because it's connected to this trade node, which is why we're actually going to take it. Now, when you take somebody else's land, the only land you can't take is their capital. Each nation has a capital. For example, Morocco, their capital is down here. It's Marrakesh. You can tell the capital because it has this little crown on a spike sticking up out of the city. Okay, so we have ourselves our first event. The Pope has just announced that one of our ruler's most esteemed and revered ancestors was actually a saint. This is a cause for great celebration, and we actually gain 1 stability. So there's a random event that's actually gone in our favour. They don't usually happen. So as I was saying, you can't actually take someone's capital unless it is their last remaining province, or you can take their last remaining province. So, for example, if I controlled all of Morocco and all they had left was Casablanca and Marrakesh, if I had enough war score to take both of them, I could do. But I couldn't take Marrakesh until I'd taken all of their other provinces. So we're just going to let things carry on. Let's just mouse over this guy here, and we can see still he's been claiming for 320 days. So it's almost time to be able to go and do that. Now, can we get down to Cadiz? Cadiz has a supply limit of 27, so we can safely move this unit down to Cadiz, which we are actually going to do. Now, we are going to want to get these troops across into Tangiers. We are going to need transport ships. Now, we only have 6 transport ships. I should have had a bit of forethought and produced some extra ones. But I'm going to take all of these ships, and I'm going to get them to move over here and dock in Cadiz. So let's let things carry on. And obviously we get our pop-up because our army has arrived. And our navy has arrived. We're not going to put anybody onto the boat yet because it would be a little silly. And this guy's nearly done. He has 5 days left to go. And there we go. We have gained a conquest casus belli against Morocco. They hold provinces that we have a claim on. Take Tangiers. The war goal is to take Tangiers. So I'm going to slow the game speed down. And if we actually now left click on Tangiers, you can see that our shield appears with a green outline. This means we have a claim on this province. If we were now to choose to go to war with Morocco, which we can't currently do because we have to wait for our diplomat to get back. So let's just speed things up and get our diplomat back. Diplomat is back. If we were to declare war on Morocco, we actually now have the take Tangiers Casus Belli. So if we took it, we'd get 75% aggressive expansion, we'd gain 100% prestige, we'd gain 100% diplomatic power, and 100% cost for full annexation. So that is going to be our war goal when we go to war with Morocco. We can choose to bring in Portugal, our ally, which I probably won't at this point. And we can see that they are allied with Grenada and Tunisia, which I'm not too worried about, although they do have a few navies around. But we're going to do that in the next video, because this one has gone on long enough. I appreciate there's not been an awful lot of action in this video, but hopefully it's been enough for you to understand how you can create your armies, move them around, split them up and form them together, and how you can actually make claims against your neighbours. Now, in order to make a claim, it has to be adjacent to one of your borders. So I couldn't make a claim on Fez, for example, because Fez isn't adjacent. I could make a claim on Granada, I could make a claim on the Algarve, I could make a claim on Alicante. Anywhere that is adjacent to your borders, you can make a claim on. The other thing as well, if you share a body of water with something. So Casablanca doesn't share a body of water with me, even though it does look like Casablanca borders this Straits of Gibraltar. We actually go by where the port is. So if we actually look at Casablanca, the port is here, which means it's actually in the coast of Morocco. But obviously, because I have Cadiz here, Cadiz shares the same body of water with Tangiers, because it shares the Straits of Gibraltar, and that's why I was able to fabricate a claim there. In fact, it may actually... No, it does actually count Casablanca. So that's one of the things they've changed, because it is in that, but usually it just goes by where the dock is, because if I was to send a ship to Casablanca, it would approach from this patch of water here. But that's essentially how you fabricate claims, which is the easiest way to be able to go to war with someone. And in the next video, we will be covering warfare when we go and attack Tangiers. So thanks a lot for watching, guys, and remember, if you are still interested in seeing more of this series, please give the video a thumbs up and leave something in the comments so I know that it is worth my time continuing. And I'll see you on the next video. So until then, goodbye for now.